how it all went south.
All right, Sean, we're going to do something a little bit different today. This is a food crime related episode. And I think this started because when we were brainstorming ideas for new episodes, we couldn't stop kind of coming up with these wild stories of criminals and food and kind of the cross-section between the two. So it became something where I've got like 4 or 5 little mini stories in this episode today. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to kick off the episode with what else? A little Taco Bell. Sound good?
Love Taco Bell.
Yeah. So in true Breaking Bad fashion, I found a story about 2 men, one of which was an employee at a Cedar Rapids, Iowa Taco Bell that started a meth lab in a utility area on the premises. The Daily Mail had a great... Yeah, it's great, right? So the Daily Mail had a great quote, which I wish I had thought of this. They said, officers entered the closed restaurant and found more than tortilla chips and quesadillas, but the remnants of what appeared to be a meth lab. So when police arrived at the Taco Bell, they found all the common ingredients to make meth. Coleman fuel, lye, drain cleaner, and a few others that help you make meth. And they found a peeled lithium battery near the feet of employee Christopher Matus.
As he just kicking it all that.
He said he was making his own stash so that he could, quote, stay high all the time. Matus and another man, Kent Doobie, were both arrested.
And his last name's Doobie?
Yeah. I love this statement.
You got to give the guy a little credit for honesty. He's like, hey, I was just making it so I could stay high. I mean, what?
Yeah, you'll see the photos of these guys, too. They're like, one guy is like in his 50s or 60s. The other guy is like 20s or 30s. Perfect partnership, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very Breaking Bad, right?
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and I love this statement by the public health official, though. At this time, there is no evidence that there is a health risk to the public. Okay, so you're just running a meth lab, around the premises of the Taco Bell. Though officers wearing hazardous materials suits examined what they had discovered outside. So even though they were in the hazmat suits,
You're good?
Yeah, a sign posted at the restaurant. This is Tuesday.
Yeah.
A sign posted at the restaurant said they would open Tuesday evening.
You can't miss Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot to cover in today's food-themed crimes episode. I'm Jason Hoke, and this is Sean Kipe, and live from 800 East Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, this is how it all went south. All right, so like I said, a couple mini stories here, and this one just for the
bite size.
Yeah, bite-sized. And this one just for, or packet-sized in this case. This one in particular, I love for probably obvious reasons. It's just weird. I call it DSK, the duck sauce killer.
Clever.
Yeah. Thank you. It was another ordinary evening as Juan Yan rode his scooter away from the Great Wall restaurant where he'd worked for over 20 years.
It's already funny. Don Juan, what is it? Don Yan from the Great Wall restaurant. Ziwan Yan.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did I say?
I don't know. I thought you said Don Yan.
Yeah. Ziwan Yan rode his scooter away from the Great Wall restaurant where he had worked for over 20 years. But someone was watching him. A man trailed shortly behind as Yan made his delivery to a home in Forest Hills, Queens. While waiting at a stoplight on his route back, the mysterious man approached him and fired a single fatal shot into his chest. Rushed to Elmhurst Hospital Center, Yan would inevitably be pronounced dead. This incident had been brewing for months. So on November 30th, 2021, Glenn Hirsch placed an order at the Great Wall restaurant and asked for extra duck sauce packets. Even though they'd packed a few more into his order, it just wasn't enough. Duck sauce rage.
Just was not enough. Duck sauce rage.
They even threw a couple extras in here. Dissatisfied.
Damn it!
Yeah. Dissatisfied, Hirsch quickly became irate, arguing with the staff. He demanded a refund and insisted he'd been shortchanged on the sauce. When one worker refused, Hirsch called 911. A Great Wall employee explained to police that the restaurant couldn't take back orders thanks to the coronavirus. Furious, Hirsch stormed out of the restaurant, but that would not be the only time that they would see him.
And as he stormed out, he was screaming, "The coronavirus is fake.
Yeah.
It's not even real." So, something like that, I bet.
So I'm
Does it not sound like the kind of...
Oh, no, total. So I'm wondering, is there a condiment that makes you really angry?
That makes me angry?
Yeah. Like
mayonnaise kind of does.
Yes.
Mayonnaise makes me... It doesn't make me angry, but mayonnaise is one of those things that, like, I absolutely despise mayonnaise by itself. Like, I don't want the slightest taste of just mayonnaise. If it's on bread, if it's in the sandwich, I love it.
Interesting.
I want it there. Like tartar sauce. Same thing.
Yeah.
If you were to give me a spoon of tartar sauce, I would probably vomit. But give me that with some fish sticks.
Yeah.
Daddy, I will eat that all day long.
Interesting. Weren't we talking about this on another...
What were we talking about?
on another... I just want to make sure, like, do condiments make you angry? And I remember on another episode we were talking about, weren't you, like, opening the fridge and, like, Dijon mustard was a thing? You had some sort of obsession with that? What was that all about?
No, you know what? I would eat, like, random things when I was a kid out of the fridge. And this happened for many years. But A1 steak sauce, I would get into the fridge and I would, like, I'd pour it into the cap, like its own little measuring thing. And I would like take a shot of A1 steak sauce and Worcester sauce. I would eat butter when I was little. I would eat butter. My mom told me one time she found me like eating toothpaste. I know this has gone off the condiment train, but I like random weird.
Sean, are you the duck sauce killer?
No. I promise I'm not.
Wow, you were weird.
Yeah, yeah. Kids would eat things weird, like that's a normal thing. I never ate like bleach under the under the like cabinet or anything, but
bleach isn't a condiment.
I'm just saying, at least I was eating things that were edible.
Wow,
it's nothing weird. Just like having a couple of spoonfuls of butter.
Serious disdain. He's like, even tartar sauce.
Yeah, man. That's like sour cream. If you put fucking sour cream on my Mexican food at a restaurant, after I won't eat it.
Wow.
I'm that guy that's in the Mexican restaurant ordering food, and I'm like, you order the whole thing, and I'm like, and no sour cream on any of that, please. And then I get that everything's packaged up in the bag. They give it to me to go, and I like inspect it like the asshole, that's like I don't trust them, I'm like judging.
Yeah, thanks for not screwing it up, man.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll be back again.
Oh my God. Whew.
Jason was worried about this episode not going.
I'm still worried about it.
Yeah.
All right. Shane's over here crying. Too bad we don't have a camera on Shane today. I think this is all intentional.
I would love it. I want people to put in the comments. I want people to actually write in and ask this on YouTube or whatever, but I want to know if I'm alone in this.
Yeah, okay.
But it sounds like I hate mayonnaise more than most.
Okay, so December 16th, 2021, just a few weeks later, as Yan walked out of the restaurant, this is before the ultimate shot happened. He was shocked to see Hirsch vandalizing his Lexus RV 3000 with a knife. Concealing his face behind a black surgical mask, Hirsch threatened Yan and the other Great Wall workers. "I have a gun. Be careful. This is the last time I'm going to tell you." Remember, so he's pissed off about the coronavirus and all that's happening, and he's the guy wearing the mask.
Right. Yeah. And no one will ever figure out who I am.
Yeah. So as Hirsch walked to his car, 3 restaurant workers followed to confront him. One pulled back pulled down his black mask, while the others took pictures of Hirsch's face and the license plate of his gray Lexus SUV with their cell phones. So he knows he's busted now, and he's in a rage, and, obviously this doesn't end well. So January 28th, 2022, it's just about a month later, one of the Great Wall's workers was outside shoveling snow thanks to a heavy snowfall, and just before 10 p.m. When Hirsch appeared again, he pointed a black firearm at the man, threatening, "How's your car? Remember me? I will kill your entire family." The man rushed back into the restaurant to call the police, but when he went back outside, Hirsch was gone. The tires of another worker's car had been slashed. So he's there every couple weeks, couple months, taunting this Great Wall restaurant,
And you got to imagine the times that he's not there. He's just sitting in his apartment, like stewing over this duck sauce.
Yeah.
And could you not go by? They have the international aisle at any grocery store. He could have a big bottle of duck sauce that he just gets on his, whatever.
I know.
Szechuan chicken. I don't know.
So after dropping his wife
Covered in duck sauce. Just absolutely it's like a soup it's like duck sauce soup with a couple pieces of chicken in it. That's what I'm picturing this guy's ideal meal would be.
That was January. So in April of that same year, 2022, after dropping his wife off at work, Hirsch made his way to the Great Wall again, and surveillance footage from several cameras captured him driving by the restaurant 7 times between 7:30 and 9:30 before spotting Jan again, leaving to make a delivery on his scooter. Hirsch followed. So shortly after delivering the order, Jan stopped at a red light at 67th Drive and 108th Street, where Hirsch approached him on foot. Recognizing Hirsch, Jan started to back away. But Hirsch fired, the bullet ripping into Jan's chest. This is when he dies. So witnesses saw Hirsch running back to his SUV and driving away from the scene to his wife's apartment in Briarwood.
I just don't hate any condiment as much as that guy loved. Yeah, duck sauce. Or that's so bizarre. Obviously there's a mental illness at play. Yeah. Even still, it's hard to understand how someone gets that focused on that one thing, that small of a thing.
Remember we've talked about how people snap?
Yeah, but it's not a snap. Like a snap would have been if he was in the restaurant that night, flipped out and shot him.
That night.
This is like months of stewing. That's why I say,
yeah.
You picture this guy in his apartment just plotting and
So
bizarre.
I know, it's so bizarre.
Poor guy.
So now let's fast forward to June 1st. The murder has happened.
I thought that was it.
No.
There's more.
Yeah, there's more. A grand jury indictment charged Hirsch with murder in the second degree, criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, criminal mischief, menacing, and stalking. Just after court-authorized search warrants were executed at his estranged wife's home. The couple had parted ways amicably, although a neighbor named Glenn told police that Hirsch showed up often and described him as an asshole. I've heard him a bunch of times yelling at her, "He's an asshole." I've just seen that guy treating her like shit. He speaks very loud. These walls are not the thickest in the world. I never saw bruises on her, but that lady took a lot of verbal abuse from the guy. It makes me want to move. So, I mean, can you imagine being in an apartment? People are already banging the furniture one floor up, and you hear this guy who's a complete asshole to his wife or girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, although 8 firearms and over 400 rounds of ammunition were found in a closet at the home that also contained some of his belongings, Hirsch would later reveal that he had moved the guns onto his wife's property years ago after closing a storage unit. Among the weapons found were included a .357 Magnum revolver, 25 caliber semi-automatic pistol, a 38 caliber revolver, a .380 semi-automatic pistol, a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol, and 3 9mm semi-automatic pistols. So just in case he didn't get his delivery in the future, he had lots of weapons. He pleaded not guilty. His bail was set at $500,000 or a $10 million bond.
Yeah, he pled not guilty.
Yeah.
Weren't there were witnesses or cameras that he was caught on?
Do stupid things. I can't. maybe I can get away
I
with
thought
it.
maybe I misheard that or something when, but I thought, was he seen like on security camera? There was.
I think so, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I just
okay.
think thought he could get away with it and intimidate and all that stuff. So,
Right.
I mean, this is really sad, but using an interpreter during a candlelight vigil for Yen, his wife told the press, New York City, you owe me a life, you owe me a husband, you owe an explanation to the Chinese community. I want to know why, since last November, his boss and colleagues have been threatened multiple times and nobody could protect them. I want to know why. So this is
That's sad.
It's
Yeah.
the worst part of this. So last part of this, August 2022, out on bail, Glenn Hirsch shot himself at home while awaiting trial. He was found dead on a plastic-covered couch, wearing rubber gloves with a gun in his hand and a radio blaring so loud it could be heard outside. A typewritten note, several pages long, lay on the floor at his feet. He'd emailed it to his lawyers, prosecutors, and others involved in the case, denying any involvement in Yen's murder and attempting to exonerate his wife of any knowledge of the guns found in her home. In a statement to the press, his lawyer claimed Hirsch became overwhelmed by the press coverage and the media attention and the rush to vilification, and he didn't take care of his mental health, which is obviously something he needed to do, and he became depressed and suicidal. So it's a horrible, horrible ending.
Spiral, yeah.
And you look back and the shame of it all is, why do we get so mad at so petty or little things in our lives? Yeah. I'm not saying that this is anywhere close, but when I first got married, I used to go to New York City Monday through Friday. And, I worked in Manhattan from Raleigh, North Carolina. I think it was in our first year of being married, and we had a new house and all that stuff. And I used to get so stressed out of the delays coming out of LaGuardia to come home. And it just bothered me. Like the energy of the city just possessed me. And my wife, she said this, and it really, really hit me hard. She said, I can't talk to you for 24 hours when you come home after a week of your stress in New York and you're worrying about flights. And it kind of hit me right where it hurt. And I said, you know what? I'm never going to do that again with regards to air travel. You know how you get on flights and people are upset, they hear a baby scream, that someone boards before them, they're not getting their little, vodka, peanuts on time. And I'm telling you, I recommend this to anyone in the audience. Like, if you let it go, it will change your life with air travel. I feel like there's not been anything that's happened that's been bad in my air travel in 25 years since, honestly. And that's easier said than done, but I actually subscribed to it and it worked. And so duck sauce or air travel, whatever the hell it is, we got to let things go.
Yeah, it's easy to focus on just the little things, or if you've had a bad day or a bad week or month or whatever else is going on in your life. But you do have to sometimes just be conscious, or try to be conscious of, and I'm guilty of it. We all are, I'm sure, but I'll get aggravated by just something. And realize immediately, like, I'm not really aggravated by that. It's everything else, and I'm focusing in on this, whatever, the dog's barking, and it's annoying, or whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, and you're right, though, but when you kind of step back and realize that, it gives you an opportunity to go, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and
you feel better.
And no one's perfect, and you all know, just filming here, like, when I'm ready to go, and I'll start pacing and getting pissed off, and that's just the way I am.
It's that. It's the loudest sigh. As he compresses. One day, Jason's head is going to explode as he just compresses into a little ball of dark matter.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we deal with just putting podcasts out in the world is these comments, right? Like boring. It could have been 3 episodes. People, and I don't expect people to understand what we go through, nor am I looking for sympathy or anything. And my general rule is, it's okay if you don't like it. It's okay if you don't like me. Just don't be a jerk, okay? Like, being a hidden troll, like, fine. What you do, you. But, like, I think we've just tried to do our best to just have a sense of humor about it. Frankly, the YouTube comments being open, I don't think we're going to get too riled up about it. I actually want to be engaged with people and have a little bit of fun.
Welcoming people to leave nasty remarks just to see if they can get him to respond.
Well,
what a way to go.
yeah. We like Sean, but we don't like the other guy.
I wouldn't even expect that.
It's coming, don't you worry.
I wouldn't expect that.
Anyway, so that is our first story, and that was duck sauce. And there's another saucy murder right around the corner. This one's the sweet and sour murder in Washington, D.C., and we'll tell you all about it right after the break. All right, so we are back. We've just talked about the duck sauce killer, and we were moving into the sauce category, the sauce family. There was a case of a man in Ankeny, Iowa, who didn't get dipping sauce with his chicken McNuggets at the local McDonald's. He was so upset, he called in a bomb threat. 42-year-old Robert Goldwitzer Jr. was charged with a felony for the false report of an explosive and incendiary device. I was like, oh, this is wild, calling it a bomb threat because you didn't get, your sauce, right, for your chicken nuggets. But it sent me down this rabbit hole because Snopes has actually tried to validate whether this is a true story or not. Like, they took this story seriously enough that there's an entry on Snopes for it. So they did an investigation and could not prove that this was true one way or another, even sending the police chief a list of questions relating to this case. And he did not respond. So this is kind of open-ended on Snopes.
But I'm going to say, I would believe, even if this story is not true, that it's for sure things like that have happened.
Oh, totally.
People are nuts. When it comes to fast food, so many things I've seen online recently, where like people have gotten in full on fights, like with the person at the drive-through window,
yeah,
and they're yanking them out of the, I've never understood that. I mean, yeah, it's a drag to wait an extra couple minutes for your food, and we've all been there where it's like, oh, come on, it's, all you're doing is microwaving it,
yeah.
But I've never been to the point of like getting to the drive-through window and being like, I'll kill you.
You ever worked the drive-through window?
Never worked in any food service in my life.
Yeah, I didn't have much choice as a kid. Like the jobs that were out there. So my first job was in Arby's. Hardee's, yeah. So it's tough because people are so angry at you and they don't respect you, and and you're greasy and gross, and it's just not cool at all. You're not making any money. I mean, like minimum wage for me was like $3.85 at $3.35. So you're like, this is it.
Yeah.
And you're just like this, pipsqueak of a little 16-year-old kid at the cash wrap.
And already greasy from the fast food grease coming on.
And you're just awkward as hell. And the whole thing is not good. Yeah.
I would have loved it. I love Arby's. People knock Arby's all the time.
I love Arby's too.
I love Arby's so much. You want to talk about condiments? I bought, in my refrigerator right now, I have Arby's sauce.
The
whole bottle. The Arby's sauce.
Not the horsey sauce.
No, horsey sauce is good. The regular Arby's sauce. I will put that on anything.
Yeah.
It's like that and Old Bay. If you're from Maryland, which I am, you will put Old Bay on anything. When I lived...
The Maryland stories are just as bad as the Alaska stories, but go ahead.
No, this wasn't a Maryland story.
Okay.
No, there was no Maryland story. I was just saying. It's like one of
the Alaska story. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't want to hear this, but continue.
You do you.
It can be edited out, Jason.
So I don't know what is it? Bay what? Seasoning?
You didn't care a minute ago. I don't want to tell you now. It made me self-conscious. It's from Maryland. You don't care. Just trying to represent my peeps.
I told you. I told you it was a Maryland thing.
It wasn't a Maryland thing. We're talking about,
After the break, we're going to talk about death over pancakes and French fries.
Was there a story in that somewhere?
All right, so we're back, and this one's kind of a depressing one, but I just wanted to include it. It was actually the initial, I think, story that we found about death over pancakes. So after a recent stroke, Stephen Schwartz, 85, found himself in a heated dispute with his wife, Sharon, who was 81, on a chilly December Sunday afternoon. The stroke had severely limited his mobility and extensively changed his diet. So he was just had some health problems, and hoping to help him regain some weight, his wife Sharon made him pancakes, but Stephen refused to eat them. Around 1:30 p.m., Stephen called his stepson to vent about the escalating argument he was having with Sharon. Soon after, a plate crashed against the wall, though Stephen wasn't sure if Sharon had thrown it at him.
So he's hearing all this on the phone with his dad.
He called later on to find out what was happening. So next door, the neighbors were watching a movie when they heard a loud noise come from the Schwartz home. Pausing the movie, they listened and were alarmed to hear a woman scream. Concerned by the commotion, they immediately called and texted Sharon's sons and Sharon herself to check on her. One of Sharon's sons, who visited the couple every day, got a text message around 3:30 p.m. that afternoon from the neighbors urging him to check on his parents because they had heard the screaming and tumbling next door. He rushed over only to find Sharon laying against the entrance door, making it difficult to enter. Moving Sharon's body with the door to enter, he noticed she was unconscious but struggling to breathe, and Stephen was kneeling beside her. He said, "Mom, are you okay?" her son had asked, but Sharon could only mouth a silent response. Eager to understand what had happened, he asked, "What did you do?" Stephen immediately confessed, "I stabbed her and then myself." Noticing blood on the right back side of Sharon's shirt, her son wrestled a knife from Stephen's right hand and placed it on the floor in front of a cabinet. As Stephen went upstairs, Sharon's son called 911. So she ended up at the hospital with those injuries. And upstairs, officers found Stephen, remember he's 85 years old, on his knees in the living room, holding a knife to his abdomen. Despite trying to de-escalate the situation, Stephen stabbed himself, which is not easy to do. An officer used his taser to disarm him, and Petey was able to take the knife from him and immediately placed him in handcuffs. On the way to the hospital, officers overheard mutterings from Stephen. "I want to die so bad. I can't stand food, and she was making me eat, and we fought. She screamed, and she threw it at me. I have 2 diagnoses, depressing and eating diversion. What happened? What exactly happened?" Sadly, his wife Sharon did not survive her injuries. So the medical examiner ruled her death was a homicide, and Stephen was charged with second-degree murder while armed. Stephen's statement to police made it pretty clear that he was in a state of shock and that he was in a delusional state. And this was just way too much. So the charge was disposed of eventually just because they were, 85, 81 years old. And looking at the filings, it seems that he was released on mental health issues. So it's depressing, but just like food issues and anger around like not wanting certain types of foods. And, we talk about depression and anxiety and all these things. The trigger isn't that it was the pancakes. It was the pressure to eat and all the things around. And I don't even know why this kind of story ended up here, but like it's a sad story, right? That says sometimes the most unexpected or unknown things can trigger the worst events. And as much as we can, we just have to try to do better.
Maybe her pancakes just sucked.
You had those buckwheat pancakes?
Yeah, they were dry and hard overcooked.
Stomachache.
Was he on medication at all or anything?
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was on all kinds of stuff. But he had a stroke, right? And things were just not kind of the way they used to be. And being with someone most of your life and just that frustration, you've got no outlet.
They also didn't cover it in the press.
Yeah.
They didn't cover that.
Yeah, that's...
The only thing that got covered in the press was that he killed his wife over pancakes, but the real backstory.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
And maybe actually the right thing to talk about here is like we sometimes are lured by fantastical headlines that say something like "death by pancakes," and it's fun to talk about, and some of these are fun and funny, but when you actually go a little bit deeper and you find out what happens, it's almost like mortifying to realize what actually happened and that there was families that were involved in this that lost loved ones.
Yeah, and it's sad, if the guy had some mental disorders, and again, I mean, it seems like we've had so many of these on the show already where that's the root cause of some of these being at that age and just not really knowing or realizing what you were doing.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. So I told you it was going to be a kind of mix of emotions on this one. All right. So the next story, last story of this special food crime related episode, happens in May 2020 in Manchester, England. A woman and her partner were walking dogs in Stockport, and they were in for a shock when they discovered bags that contained human remains at Reddish Vale Country Park around 10:30 a.m. on May 25th, 2020. Police subsequently discovered 2 bags during their search, along with 4 more half a mile away in another part of the park. A pathologist confirmed that the remains belonged to Yvonne McCann. That evening, around 7:15, Yvonne's husband, Tim McCann, reported her missing to the police. He and Yvonne had been childhood sweethearts, having met as teenagers, and they had begun their relationship 32 years prior to her disappearance. They'd been married for 24 years, tying the knot in November of 1996. After 4 interviews with police, McCann ultimately confessed, admitting he lost control and could not stop. A few days before, neighbors recalled hearing the couple arguing, but when they messaged Yvonne to see if she was okay, she shared that the two had been arguing over a bag of frozen French fries that had been left out of the freezer. Now, listen, I think at this point I need a vacation from this stuff. Like, people are way too stressed about soggy fries. We talked about soggy fries earlier, right? Like, this is tough. This is tough.
Listen, as a French fry connoisseur, yeah, man, there's a limit. If you soggy fries or overcooked hard fries, if you're not in that window, that perfect window, I'm not going to kill somebody, but I mean...
Well, let's get into that. So the reality was that McCann had strangled his wife after she shouted in his face, then proceeded to cut up her body using a Stanley knife and tree lopper and dump it in the nearby park. Over French fries, remember. After finishing his delivery driver work, CCTV captured McCann driving towards Hollow's End, carrying bin bags to his car, and carrying bags while walking towards Reddish Vale Park, which is where they found these bags, right? Only to return empty-handed 10 minutes later. So he's dropped the bags in the park, and then he doesn't have the bags anymore.
I'm just surprised he went to work the next day.
Seriously. He was later seen throwing 8 plastic bags into a skip, which is like a dumpster, at Bredbury Recycling Center. Only half of her body was recovered. To cover up her absence, McCann pretended to be her when replying to text messages from their children on Yvonne's cell phone. He told them she had been arguing with her dad and had walked out. When their son Callum called them both to a barbecue the next day, Yvonne, as him, replied, "Okay, call around if home. Your dad's a mange. He might be on his own." So he's pretending to be her and trying to cover this up. How long can this last, right? So McCann later took his daughter Rachel to buy groceries for the barbecue, where he got drunk and was described as stumbling and falling all over. He'd been drinking whiskey, an unusual sight given he didn't drink alcohol. So he is like, he knows he's messed up. Yeah. It wasn't until Rachel and her brother Josh discovered their mom's phone and rings in his jacket pocket after the barbecue while he was passed out on the sofa that her disappearance grew to be suspicious. Of course, where's mom? Where's mom? After Callum received a worried call from his sister that their mom was missing, they began noticing on social media that a body had been found by dog walkers. So they're starting to put this together.
Yeah, and what a the timing of that. Can you? I always think about when you start finding out and putting the pieces together. If you ever, not even in a murder, but anything like, not to jump off topic, but
no.
Like, I had like a social media account recently that got hacked. Right, remember that? And there was this moment that lasted maybe 15 seconds that felt like it was 25 minutes long, where your mind is going like click, click, click and putting it into place. Oh shit, like this has happened. Now imagine that with something about your parents' murder.
Where's mom? Oh, by the way, they just found someone in a park.
Yeah, and you just start seeing this stuff. Like, I can't imagine that because I was freaking out. And this is just, a stupid social media account getting hacked. I cannot imagine.
With the blood rushes from your face, your
heart stops for a second as you just... it's overwhelming.
It's like seeing a car crash in slow motion.
Yeah, I cannot imagine just that realization coming together in your mind about a parent. I can't imagine that.
It's terrible.
Horrible.
And so, as with lots of things that we've talked about, not just on this episode but others, it's not the French fries being left out. It was something else. So what was the something else?
Yeah.
So investigators discovered that Yvonne had started a relationship with another man in 2013, and this news clearly made her husband jealous, and their relationship went south, ultimately leading to her murder. It seemed that the frozen fries argument was the trigger that sent McCann over the edge. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah, that was the catalyst. There's always a catalyst. There's just the straw that breaks the camel's back, right?
Yeah.
It's funny that it's fries.
Yeah. So he was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 13 years and 4 months before parole. So he will be jailed for no less than 12 years. So for
I would hope.
Yeah, like for chopping up his wife and
Jesus.
throwing her in the park.
How do people go? You hear about this kind of stuff all the time, right? And part of that thinking is like, okay, I've got to appear normal.
Yeah.
I've just committed a murder. I've got to appear normal. But how do you go to work? I cannot and function and try to appear. Like, to me, call in for a few days, because there's no way that the average person is going to.
And he knows that the kids are going to be
normal,
texting his wife, and he knows that. So I think the message here is the one little food event was a triggering event for something that was much deeper, much darker, much sadder, frankly, than it needed to be. And we're living in a world of anxious people these days. We just are. There's a lot of shit going on in the world. Yeah. And I can't say that any of us are perfect or we have a remedy for this. But anyway, it's ending on a little bit of an unexpected down note in this episode. Because are there any happy ending food-related crimes, really?
I don't know how many happy ending crimes there are in general, Jason.
This is true.
I mean,
this is true.
Kind of the opposite of. I don't know though. Maybe.
Well, we're gonna do more themed episodes like this. We have a couple ideas. Food, I think, we'll come back to this. If you're in the YouTube comments and you've got an idea of a crazy story or one that you've heard or that something we might be interested in, either as a little segment or as its own episode, please let us know and we'll take a look at it. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Jason Hoke, and that's Sean Kipe, and this is How It All Went South.